There is no shortage of games under the Metroidvania umbrella. It's a popular genre for a reason. The sense of exploration and progression is what really drives this genre forward. The best example of this is Hollow Knight. Widely regarded as one of the best indie games of all time, its sequel Silksong has been very quiet for a while. So, if you're like me and are looking to scratch that Hollow Knight itch, then look no further than Nine Souls. This game took me by surprise. I didn't know much about it other than it was a Metroidvania and the combat was very parry heavy. What I found was a super fun game that has a lot of lore and a story that is actually quite deep. The result of this combo is a game that should instantly shoot up everyone's must-play list. It's hard not to compare Hollow Knight to Nine Souls. The inspiration is pretty clear. And that's not a bad thing. Nine Souls is able to take that inspiration and create something that is their own. The combat and environments are what really make Nine Souls a joy to explore and a joy to play. I'll start with the combat. It's pretty straightforward at the start, and it becomes more layered the further you get into the game. You'll start with a sword and a parry, and the tutorial does a great job at setting up how you're going to play the game. You're either going to learn to time your parry, or you're going to get smacked around. A lot. Each enemy encounter can pose a challenge if you're not ready. If you go in and you just start swinging around, you'll probably end up dying and respawning at the last node. You're gonna have to learn each enemy's tells in order to time your parry right, and then start dealing damage. You have a pretty limited arsenal. Your sword and your parry will be your main attacks, but you will also collect a bow with 3 different arrow types and a talisman that has 3 different ways to use it. Each has their utility. Some of the bosses can be staggered for a couple seconds if you use the correct arrow. This opens up combat a bit and makes different fights almost puzzle-like. Your main move will always be the parry. If you time it right, you'll win every fight. If you time it wrong, you'll take some internal damage. That's not the worst thing in the world though. Internal damage will slowly regen over time. Or you can also gain it back in chunks by timing your parry correctly. It's a great way to teach you the timing of the game without it coming across as too brutal. It can be slightly forgiving in that way. The combat is a standout in this game for sure, but I think my least favorite aspect of the combat was the Jade system. It acts a lot like the charm system from Hollow Knight. This is a very clear copy and paste system. The difference is, Hollow Knight's charms can drastically change how you play that game, and you can mix and match different charms to create builds that are OP as all get out. This isn't the case in Nine Souls. There are definitely some useful Jades, but there isn't enough versatility with the system to create a unique playstyle. If they were to ever make a follow-up, this is an area that could be improved upon. I know the developers were going for a very parry-based system, and they want you to play a certain way, but I think having the player have a little bit more agency in the way they build their character could definitely be an improvement. Moving on to what I think is the best part about this game are the boss fights. Each boss is unique in both their movesets and aesthetic. These fights are so fun, fast, and tough. There were multiple times that I thought, I may not be good enough to beat this boss. But that was my favorite part. Once you learn the pattern and timing of the boss's attacks, you start making progress, and before you know it, you have vanquished your foe. Each boss is a little harder than the last, so your skills will be tested. You'll eventually get a move called Unbound Counter. This allows you to charge up your parry, and if released at the correct time, you will be able to parry previously unblockable attacks, while also staggering the enemy. This is where you can get a few swings in and use your talisman explosion to take a huge percentage of the enemy's health. Mastering this ability is crucial if you want to progress. Some of the bosses will mix in these unblockable attacks, and it's on you if you don't react quick enough. It's incredibly satisfying once you get it down. Easily my favorite part of the game. Each boss has a unique way of making you feel like you're never going to beat this. So when you do, it is something really special and a great feeling of accomplishment. Another really cool aspect of the game is after you complete the game and you beat the final boss, you see the ending, and then at the main menu, you have an option to replay boss fights. So it's a great way to really test your skills and see how far you've come after beating the game. Going back to that first boss and taking them out in 1 or 2 goes really showcased how far you can come in a game that is so skill-based like this. If you do find yourself struggling, a great way is to explore the different areas, start defeating enemies, and gathering experience that you can now dump into your skill tree. Now, I will say the skill tree isn't super in-depth. It's pretty basic, and I think that kind of goes with the Jade system as well. If there were some more unique aspects of it, or different moves or something like that to kind of expand the way you play the game and attack bosses and enemies in a way that makes more sense to you, I think that could be a really great area for improvement. But there are things like deal more damage with your sword, or you get a little kick, so now you can kick off at enemies when they're glowing green. It's little stuff like that that add to the combat and make things a tad easier, but it's nothing revolutionary. This game also functions like a Souls game in a sense. A lot of games do this nowadays, but what I'm talking about is when you die, you drop a flower that contains your XP and currency. After you respawn, you'll have the opportunity to get back to that flower. If you're able to do that, you'll regain all that you lost. This isn't anything new, but it 100% fits the design of this game. It's a fun little way to not punish you for learning. And I think that's the message of this game is play, learn, and get better. And it doesn't do it in an overly brutal way. Moving on to the story, this is a part of the game where you get what you put in. Meaning the lore that you discover and read, the objects you turn into your companions, it all fills out the story. You play as Yi. The game tells his story of a virus, betrayal, and a touching relationship between him and his sister. The game takes some twists and turns and has some real stakes involved. It's a good story that is enhanced by the world building and the characters you meet along the way. It's all a really nice package. It is a game that sings the more you play it, the more you get used to the combat, it really starts to click. Now, before I end the video, I do want to touch on 3 things I think this game missed. If the developers would have gone these few extra little steps, this game could be an all-time great. I understand that these are little nitpicks that bother my inner completionist, but these definitely affect exploration. A no-brainer feature that they missed was with the map. You're not able to mark anything on the map. You'll have a bar in the lower right of your screen telling you what you're missing in certain sectors of the game, but you can't place a marker letting you know something is there that you might not be able to get to yet. Kind of a weird decision in a Metroidvania. The second thing also involves the map. In order to navigate the map, you have to go room by room. This takes a little extra time when you're trying to clean up collectibles at the end of the game. A cursor that you're able to move freely would have done wonders. And lastly, this little complaint has to do with fast travel. Once you unlock it, you're able to go back to the pavilion, which is your home base, and then back to the node you traveled from. Eventually, you'll unlock the ability to travel to any node you've previously visited. The issue is you're only able to do that from the pavilion. You can't travel between nodes. This makes the game quite tedious when searching for collectibles. You'll be out and about in a sector, collect everything, and then you'll see that you have everything in that area, and to get to the next area you'll have to go through 4, 5, 6 different rooms in order to get there. Instead of fast traveling from the node that you're at to that sector's node, you have to travel to your pavilion, and then from that pavilion node, then you can fast travel to the other sector's node. It's a weird design choice that I really just didn't vibe with. But all in all, this game rocks. The combat, the story, the environments far outweigh any of the negatives that I touched on. Besides in the pavilion, this game runs like a dream. It's a must play. I could easily see this game being in my top 5 for the year. And that's going to do it for today's video. If you enjoyed it, I would greatly appreciate a like, share, comment, and follow. It helps out the video so much. Thank you all for tuning in, and I'll see you guys in the next one.